Hey YouTube, it's Adam Davis, the average snake keeper, and this is the third attempt that I've made to put out this video. I really wanted this video out yesterday, and I wanted to do a video with my female ball python, my normal, because she's the first snake I ever owned, and I wanted to get a little bit more into what these animals meant to me, kind of my history with keeping, and introduce a little bit more of the channel to you guys. But she's going into shed, and even though I could take her out, she's not really super fussy. But of all my snakes, she's kind of the moodiest. So when I could tell that she might be in some discomfort or be a little more skittish, I want to leave her alone. I don't really want to bother her. I don't need to. I don't think she would strike or do anything like that. But I just like to leave her be when need to be. But Dutch here, on the other hand, I took him out, and I'm like, oh man, he's starting to go into shed too. He's getting real dark. You see his skin's getting a little looser. His eyes are starting to cloud up. They're not quite there yet. But Dutch is the type of snake where he could be in the deepest blue, just right in the heart of a shedding cycle, and he still wouldn't care. This animal doesn't care about anything. You cannot phase him. Let's see if I can push him up nice and close here for you. Get that little boa mustache. They look so funny in the camera like that. Anyway, Dutch was the second snake I ever owned. And Dutch here, he kind of represents a period of my keeping where I was still doing really stupid stuff, especially when I got him. So he he was the snake that had to deal with the last of my real rookie decisions and moves as a keeper. And I still, quite honestly, am, I guess, kind of a rookie. But I mean, these were dumb things. So when I bought him, I was looking into boas for a while. I had thought originally that I never wanted anything other than a ball python, and I only ever wanted one snake. And then I kind of thought, well, maybe another snake would be cool. But I'll just get another ball python, because I thought that they, as far as having a pet snake, I said, oh, they have the best temperament and they're the best size. They get, thick and impressive to the average person, but they're not super big. I don't, a boa's too big for me. Till I started seeing more and more people's boas. And I started really realizing that when I was a kid and I thought like big, impressive snake, a boa constrictor is way more what I thought of than a ball python. So I looked into boas, started researching them, and I had a good idea on what I would need to do to, get him set up for temperatures, humidity, how I'd feed him, and all that kind of stuff. I did do a lot of deep research on that. But the crummy thing, we're going to try to keep this channel pretty oriented towards anyone, so I'll try not to swear too much on this. But the dumb thing that I did was I impulse bought him the second I saw him. I was just kind of shopping around to see who had boas. I knew something like Petco around here never does. And if they did, I at least knew at that point that I would be overpaying for an unsexed animal that would be of questionable health. So I looked up a couple reptile shops, and we've got a couple decent ones here. There are some things that I think they could improve on, but they're pretty good. I think I would, from now on, though, probably only ever go through breeders that I connect with. But, I do like to pop into those shops. So I called them, said, hey, do you have any boas? And they said, yep. What do you want to know about them? And I said, I just want to know that you have them. I'll be in to come see them. So I came in, and this was the first snake they plopped in my hands. He was about half his size, and I fell in love with him instantly. First thing he did was he came right up and rested on my nose, and he just kind of kept chilling like that through the whole time. So I held him the entire time that this guy was showing me his other boas, showing me Burmese pythons. Thank God I didn't buy one of those. But I just, even though there was a female, he had a sister that was just a little bit more in price. And at the time, I was really thinking to myself, I would shell out that extra price because I want a big snake. You know, I knew females would get a little bigger. So I want a big snake. I went from not thinking I wanted a big snake to thinking I want a real big impressive boa. But I could not put him down. He was just the chillest snake I'd ever owned. The female that they took out, she was kind of, I don't want to say she was defensive or anything, but she wasn't nearly as social as he was, just kind of eager to come out and poke around at you. Come on, bud. I don't know where he's trying to go. Anyway, I bought him that day, but I did not have an enclosure set up for him, that's a miserable thing to do. Do as I say, not as I do. Do not buy an animal without first setting up its enclosure, running your heat source, testing your thermostat that it's going to regulate that heat source, and just making sure that the enclosure you plop this animal in, you can put it in there and know that it's where it should be for their environment requirements, and that you can kind of leave it alone while they're trying to settle into their new home. Luckily, this dude is, like I say, he's just so tolerant that he would have put up with bloody anything. But they sold me him with a 10-gallon tank and a used heat mat because, that's not sketchy. And this animal, even the size I got him, he maybe was a year old at most. He shouldn't have been in a 10-gallon tank. My ball python shouldn't even been in a 10-gallon tank. But I threw it together. I had him running on the thermostat that was controlling my ball python's heat source, which meant it was, for one, it was an on-off stat, and two, it wasn't, regulating how his heat mat should be working due to his environments. It was shutting off his heat and turning on his heat when the ball python needed that done. So that was just, when I look back on that, that was super unfair to this animal. That is something I never, ever should have done. And I really highly recommend, if, you're looking into your first snake, or, come on, bud. Even if you're getting into collecting a little more, and if you don't know this already, to always have your enclosure set up beforehand. Stop huffing at me. I hear you, bud. The second lesson he taught me was inspect your animal before you buy it, if you are buying one in person. I checked him for respiratory infection. I checked him for mites. Didn't have either of those, and those were kind of the only two things I was really keen to pay attention to. But when I bought him, he had a swollen spot on his gum that I totally didn't even see. Because one, I wasn't that familiar with boas, and two, I was just so enamored with him when they put him in my hands that I totally didn't even see it. So when I did catch it, I had to learn how to do a inspection for his mouth, which was terrifying. I thought I was going to hurt him so much. And that was the only time he's ever been defensive, quote unquote. He hissed at me, and it was the most pathetic, barely audible hiss ever. And I had to take him to the vet, though, because their mouths are very susceptible to stuff like mouth rot and just abscesses. All kinds of stuff like that can get real bad with snakes. That's kind of like their weak spot, really, is their mouth and their respiratory system, apparently. Hey, bud. So I took him to the vet. She got the same pathetic hiss as she pried his mouth, but the next time she did it, he just accepted that was going to be done to him. He stopped trying to put up his pathetic little fight. And then I had to give him a round of injections. So, this animal cost me about $300. But now all of a sudden he's costing me, let's say $450 right after that vet trip. Well, luckily he was very tolerant to shots. If you can't see, I'm going to continue to tell you guys just how he is the chillest, tamest, most tolerant snake I have. I was able to give him a round of injections. He wouldn't even flinch when you put the shot in him. Wouldn't whip his head back around at you. Like I said, he's a pretty alert snake, so you'd think if he was upset, he would just tag you. But he just kept moving. But I had to take him to a vet a second time because a lot of time had passed after I was done with this round of injections, and that swelling wasn't going down. So I took him again. They gave him a different round of antibiotics. Same thing, pumped all those shots into him, and it kept getting better, but it wasn't gone. And basically what I learned, and as I started learning more and more about having him for a little while, and buddy, come on, you got to be the star of the show here. This is what's fun about handling boas. They're slow moving, they're easy to maneuver. But unlike a ball python that's just kind of going to sit there, the boa will move around. He kind of has his own agenda and what he wants to do and how he wants to explore. So it makes handling them an activity, but they're not so wily and squirmy that, you might feel like you don't have a hold of the animal while you're handling it. My Dumeril's boa can kind of be that way. He's definitely a project. He's the animal that requires your utmost attention when you have him out. Boa, he'll still wrap around me like this, so I know he's not really going to go too far, and if he starts to really get out of my reach, I'll feel him loosen his grip and start to move, but generally he just pokes around his body distance while keeping a good grip on you. He likes to feel secure. He'll flop around and flip out a little bit when you first pick him up off the ground until he's got that grip on you, and then he's fine. But anyway, like I said, after that second round of injections, I kind of just let him be, and over time, and it took a while, he healed. He's doing better. These animals, they're really able to endure and recover from a lot. They have, just like we get cut and break a bone and it heals and it mends and all that kind of stuff. I think these guys are they're pretty actually well equipped to handle a lot of trauma. And Dutch, who is, again, he's a boa imperator. He's not a boa constrictor. So even though I've used that term a couple times, scientifically, boa constrictors are what a lot of people call true red tails. They get a little bigger, their head shape's a little bit different, and they have these really dark, like just stunning contrasts of red and creamy white in their tails. Dutch, however, he's a common boa imperator. A lot of people just use the term boa constrictor either way. That may or may not really be a good thing to do in the hobby. But they're pretty hardy. I think he's been pretty tolerant to a lot of different conditions that I put him in. He's never had any signs of respiratory infection or anything like that. And overall, just been a really great snake. And like I said, he kind of gave me my last couple lessons to learn. But I quickly got him out of that 10-gallon tank. I got him into a tub set up for a little bit that I had. I upgraded my thermostats. I got rid of all the junky ones that I used to have, and I got my first herp stats and VEs. Even though they were entry level, that was still a huge upgrade from what I had before. And I eventually got him a nice 4x2 PVC cage, which I no longer have any of my PVC cages, and I'll get into why when I do get to give you my ball pythons video. But now he's in Freedom Breeder 90 tub in a rack, and he's done phenomenal in anything that I put him in. He's never been stressing and wandering around trying to escape. He's just always been really chill, dealt with any kind of conditions. And this is, like I said, he's a snake who he could be deep shed. You can pick him up and he's good to go. He'll sit with you for hours if you want. I don't necessarily take my snakes out that long, but this is my third take even of this video, so I've had him out for a little while now, and he doesn't freak out. He's not like one of my ball pythons. You can kind of tell if you've got her out for a little too long, she kind of gets a little antsy and wants to go back. But this guy right here, just nothing phases him, and he might be my favorite snake. I really hate saying that because I love them all. I really do love them all, and I am trying not to be so enamored with my new short tail that I just become the guy who's like, yeah, man, short tails. I want to experience her a little bit more, but I'm definitely really hyped about her. But there's something about this guy that just, when I think pet snake, it's this guy. It's this dude. He's going to get an impressive size, but never too big that I can't handle him on my own. And ideally, unless something flips in his brain, and as animals age, sometimes it happens, but ideally he should one day be, say, 5 to 7 feet. I would love for him to stay 6 feet, and I can just comfortably fit him in his tub for the rest of his life here. But he'll be a big boy at some point, and ideally he should be just this chill, which would just be just the coolest thing in the world, right? Take out a 6-7 foot boa who just acts just like he does. I've gotten to know his mannerisms so well that he's basically the only snake that I really never worry about. I know I can just kind of reach right in. He's not going to bother me, even if he kind of whips to see what I'm doing. I know he's not getting defensive. He's only ever kind of curious. Like I said, he's pretty reactive, but this is his personality you're seeing right here. Just chill. He's just kind of found a spot here to kind of chill out. But again, same thing. I can pick him up and maneuver him around, and he deals with it. Plop. Isn't that right, bud? He's the snake I can give chin rubs to. At first, it was real tough getting used to his demeanor because, first couple times I handled him, I was like, okay, I've never had a boa before, and he moves differently than my ball python. He acts differently than my ball python. He'd spend a lot of time sitting in that S coil, and he just kind of hangs out like that. But you're looking at that, and you're like, uh-oh, is he going to bite me? And the really big thing, I haven't seen it too much with him, but one big thing that he, had a tendency to do, and he'll still do it sometimes, is he goes right for your face. Just his inclination is to go up. So he goes up, and he goes up towards the warm thing, which is your face, your nose, and you're just, when you're new to keeping a boa and you're trying to handle it and have fun with it and get used to it, and it goes just up towards your face, you're like, ooh-wee. But all right, so this is getting long. Each time I try and do this video, it's pushing 17, 18 minutes, so I don't want it to get closer to 20. Let's cut it here. This is Dutch, and I'm the average snake keeper. Go ahead and shut off the camera there, Dutch. You got it. Good boy.